All right, let's just jump right in. Every single second of every day, there's this invisible war being fought online. It's this constant, relentless storm of automated attacks, just looking for a crack in the armor. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this hidden world, and we're going to do it using some really fascinating data from 2025.
First, I just want you to look at this number, 132 million and change. Just let that sit there for a second. What is that? The population of a country? The budget for some massive blockbuster movie? What could it be?
Yep. Get this. That was the number of malicious cyber events that were logged in January of 2025. Just 1 month. That number is, well, it's staggering. It shows you the scale of this whole thing is almost impossible to wrap your head around. So, the big question is, where are all these attacks actually going?
To figure that out, we've got to look at the specific services these attackers are hitting. Think of them as digital doorways they're constantly jiggling the handle on, just hoping to find one unlocked. And, as you're about to see, they definitely have their favorites.
Okay, so target number one, especially at the start of the year, is something called MSQL. The easiest way to think about it is like a giant digital filing cabinet. It's where companies store all their most valuable stuff: customer info, financial records, the whole shebang. It's basically the crown jewels.
And this really makes it crystal clear, right? An attack on MS SQL isn't some random shot in the dark. No, it's a very targeted attempt to crack open the vault. And when you're talking about tens of millions of attacks aimed right at it every single month, you start to understand just how valuable that treasure really is.
Now, if MS SQL is the vault, our next target is like one of the main doors into the building itself. It's called RDP, or Remote Desktop Protocol. And honestly, it's a super useful tool that lets people, remote workers or IT staff, log into a computer from literally anywhere in the world.
And this analogy just hits the nail on the head. RDP is incredibly convenient, for sure, but an unsecured RDP port, it's a massive, massive security risk. It's a wide-open window with a direct line to the controls, and you can bet attackers are scanning the internet 24/7 looking for them.
Which brings us to our third major player, VNC. It's pretty similar to RDP, actually. It's another piece of tech that allows for a remote control of a computer, giving someone else access to everything you see on your screen.
Right. It's the ultimate remote control. If an attacker gets in through VNC, they see your desktop. They can move your mouse, they can type on your keyboard. It's a total takeover. And as we're about to see, this particular doorway becomes wildly popular as the year goes on.
Okay, but wait a second. This all seems kind of invisible, right? I mean, these are digital attacks happening in milliseconds all over the world. So how in the world can we have such specific data on what hackers are targeting? It kind of sounds impossible.
Well, the answer is, it's actually kind of genius. You see, security researchers don't just sit around and wait for real systems to get attacked. No, instead, they set traps. They build something called a honeypot. And this is the key. All this data comes from networks of these traps, like one called HoneyDB. Their whole reason for existing is to attract and log all this malicious activity so we can get a real-time, living picture of what the bad guys are up to.
So what is a honeypot, really? It's a decoy. It's a computer system that's designed to look really vulnerable and tempting to an attacker. It's basically left out there on purpose, looking like an easy target so that all those automated scanning tools that hackers use will find it and try to break in.
And the process is just so simple, but so clever. You can see it here. First, researchers put the trap online. Then, the automated attack bots that are constantly scanning the web. They swarm to it, just like bees to honey. But here's the brilliant part. While the attacker thinks they're breaking into a real system, the honeypot is secretly recording everything they do, every command, every attempt. Then, all that data gets collected and analyzed, giving us these incredible insights we're looking at today.
So now that we know what the targets are and how we're tracking them, we get to what I think is the most fascinating part of this whole story. Because the world of cyber threats, it is not static. It changes, and believe me, it changes fast.
So we're going to look at the data from 4 key points in 2025, and we're going to see just how much the battlefield evolved over the year. Let's start at the beginning. In early 2025, the picture couldn't be clearer. Just look at this chart. MS SQL attacks were in a league of their own, just completely dwarfing everything else. We also see a lot of attacks on older, less secure things like Telnet and SSH, which are basically just old-school ways of getting remote access. This was pretty much the status quo when the year kicked off.
Okay, now, let's jump to the end of the year. And, whoa, what a change. Look at this. Those remote access tools, VNC and RDP, they have just exploded. By October, VNC is the #1 target, with RDP right on its heels. MSSQL is still a huge problem, don't get me wrong, but it is no longer the only game in town. The entire landscape has shifted under our feet.
And this slide just perfectly sums up the story of 2025. VNC and RDP attacks absolutely surged, becoming the new top dogs. Meanwhile, Telnet, which was the #2 threat back in January, it completely fell off the map, just vanished. And MS-SQL, while still a major target, saw its dominance basically cut in half. It's a whole new world.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Why does it even matter that attackers shifted from one thing to another? Well, it tells us something really fundamental about the nature of cybersecurity.
The most important thing to remember is that this fight is never, ever over. The threat landscape is always moving. Attackers are like water. They will always flow to the point of least resistance. This huge shift towards VNC and RDP probably means we're seeing a move towards things like ransomware, where taking direct control of a machine is the whole point. And that's exactly why intelligence from things like honeypots is so critical. You can't just defend against yesterday's attacks. You have to know where the current is flowing right now.
And all of this leaves us with one final, really challenging question. We've just watched an entire battlefield completely transform in only a matter of months. So if the front line of this hidden war is constantly on the move, how can anyone ever hope to stay one step ahead?